I mean, I will say about this show, I went in completely blind. I had no idea what it was about.
Cool.
You and Sarah, because I talked to her last week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She's lovely. You two, like, seriously, two of the best performances of the year. Like, dear God, this show
Joey.
is good. I'm like pushing it on everyone I know that. I was like, you have to watch the show, and they like some people have heard of it. It was like you have to start it now. It's so, and also I will say I watched it in like a day and a half, which is probably a mistake because I was like really I was like, oh, after that.
The trauma afterwards.
Yeah. I want to sort of ask, not to ask like a generic question to sort of begin with, but I want to know what your reaction was to the material when you first read it.
Oh, cool. Great. I love that. Yeah, so I was in Los Angeles and I was just, you're auditioning for stuff and then, there was lots of stuff coming in at the time, luckily. And, Dublin Murders came in and I looked at it and I was like, oh, cool. Okay. So it's a show, it's set in Dublin, but they're going to film in Belfast and I'm going to play an English detective. And I was like, that's really weird. I'm kind of into this as an idea. But so I made the tape and I sent it off, and I'd only read a couple of the scenes because when I get auditions in, I tend to just go with the sides, I suppose.
Yeah.
But then when if the thing gets some traction, obviously then I'll go into the script. But I saw these scenes of this guy Rob, and the first scene I saw was this quite brutal scene at the beginning of the first episode where he gives this kind of poor girl who's in the interrogation room, and he gives her this kind of monologue-esque psychological kind of deconstruction, whilst Cassie, Sarah, is in the other room making coffee, and she kind of counts down until the girl cries, and it's to show that we have this kind of symbiotic relationship. Mm-hmm. And I read this sort of scene, and I was like, oh, this guy's quite sort of out there. He's clearly very intelligent, and he's quite aggressive. He's quite fierce with his intellect. Mm-hmm. And then I saw there was another scene with me and Cassie with Sarah, and I really loved that relationship. And so then it got some traction, and I got the part. And then obviously I was like, okay, I'll read all the scripts I got. And I was so hooked in because then I saw this opening monologue to camera, which is, maybe this really dark existential kind of philosophical idea of like, maybe the killed are the lucky ones. And Rob, and I'm like, who is this guy and who is Cassie? And, you open with this scene of them at the end, and then you come back and you follow to see how they get there.
Yeah.
And, as you know how this works, Joey, like you commit on the back of maybe the two scripts, the pilot and maybe the second episode, but the rest you're just being fed. So I went off and read the book quickly, the first book, because that's all Rob's kind of story. Yeah. And then me and Sarah Green met for the first time at the table read, a week before we started filming.
Oh.
Yeah, and this classic thing of the chemistry read. I really like sort of Kate Harwood and Mimi Spanos and Sarah Phelps, the creator. And Saul Dibb, sorry, I get into listing names here, sorry. But okay. There's the whole creative team, at the top of the pile were, it was a real leap of confidence and faith because they didn't do the classic thing of, okay, let's get Sarah and Killian in a room together and let's see how they bounce off each other.
Yeah.
They saw my tape and they saw Sarah's tape and they were like, these are our people. And I guess they just trusted that hopefully it would work. And me and Sarah just hit it off instantly. But dude, like, what a relief, because if me and her hadn't liked each other, or what if we hadn't had the
That's
the right
so strange because like, the chemistry is so I don't like saying lived in, but it feels like you two have known each other for like decades.
And Joey, and that was one of the things that a lot of people said, and I was so thrilled, and I was fascinated as well, because like we literally met for the first time maybe 2 weeks before we we did our first scene, which was in the woods going to discover Katie Devlin at the beginning of the first episode.
Oh, wow.
And I just fell in love with Sarah immediately because like we both have a similar way of kind of working, which it's basically, we don't want to discuss too much. We kind of just want to show up and you play the energy of the moment and you try not to analyze too much and you just you're just kind of like throwing ideas at each other kind of thing. And, because Dublin Murders is one of those kind of shows where it's not really in that kind of Mad Men-esque thing where you've got a singular lead, like in John Hamm's character or I don't know, Breaking Bad or Sopranos, where there is a kind of a singular role at the very, very center around which it all evolves and revolves.
Yeah.
Whereas to get to go through it all with Sarah, where we're both there together as the kind of leads was such a the whole thing was just an embarrassment of riches because Sarah Phelps's writing, there's such like darkness in it, but there's such humanity in it. And that was the thing I responded to the most. And I felt that she wanted to show like, two people in a very dark set of circumstances who in many ways are trying very hard to be very good, but they're also failing at that in many ways as well. And I thought that was a very honest, kind of in a way loving portrayal, because Rob and Cassie are so broken. Like both of them are terribly fractured and they've got these crazy, terribly disturbing and traumatizing backstories. And yet they're in the purpose of like trying to do something good. And like, Rob is so, unfortunately, it's very much his undoing, but there is a real integrity in his commitment to like the truth. Do you know what I mean? But
because it's so weird because it's like, and it has to be like kind of hard for you to do that because he's someone who is putting himself like in a very vulnerable and dangerous position where everything could be like just pull one thread and whoop, there it goes.
Yeah.
So it's like
my whole life, man.
Yeah. Here we go. Like I don't know, like the and you say something about the darkness and like that is like a really good word to describe the show, but there is something where you want these characters to be better. Like you feel for them, like you really, really do. Like they're doing something good, and it's not like it's cold. There is sort of like an odd warmth to both of you, and the way that you two lean on each other is really fascinating to watch.
Yeah. But that's sorry. I'm cutting in.
No, I'm just gonna say, and also you are so you are like so in a lot of moments are so horrible, and I hated you so much. Like I wrote down lines like,
I remember the lines.
Like you were crying. You're all the same cast. Crying girls make me hard, or like. You say to Sam, she was disappointed to be alive. You were the consolation prize for having a pulse. Like, dear God, it's everyone. You're just taking down everyone.
Everyone. Like the Rob gets to a point where the unraveling is such that like, he's just firing in every direction. But man, and it's funny because you're bringing me back to so much stuff. Because we did all of this for a couple of months, as I said, before Christmas, and then. Then the show aired and whatever, and I haven't spoken to anyone about it like in this way in a while. And it's lovely because I loved him and I loved the show and we were lucky. We had such a killer team. Everyone was cool. Everyone just wanted to do good work and everyone was free to make mistakes. And it was lovely, a really good atmosphere on set. And I really responded to Rob, but so to talk about it now is fun, but like there were a couple of moments and I got the script and I just sort of, because my heart broke, like my heart would break. That's such an actor thing, I know, but it's true. I can't help it, because I would be, I can see as an objective. It's like when you see a friend and a friend is having a difficulty about a certain thing, you as an objective observer can see what this person needs to do to improve it or to whatever, but the individual is maybe struggling with it. And we all are like that, It's very easy on the outside. And I had that with Rob. I would see these moments and I would just be like, why are we doing this? Like, you know, because the character and the ident and the person and the individual. But like those scenes with Cassie, because they get together and you know it's what you think that's what they both need is each other. But Rob is he's so committed to what he needs to do that he is willing to do the classic kind of break everything else if it's going to help me get to where I want to get to. At least that's what I understood with the Rob and Cassie scenario was it will affect, you know, his ability to do the work, and to him the work is more important. But also, come on, there has to be these deep down sort of psychological neuroses about commitment and about, you know, letting someone in and letting yourself be so vulnerable, because it's terrible. Like Rob is batshit crazy in love with her, like, and like, you know, this wasn't even necessarily something me and Saul, you know, Saul was one of our executive producers, but he directed the first 2 episodes. So, you know, and he's wonderful, and, you know, he's the one who's holding our hands as we wander into it, because, you know, the first couple of weeks I'm just kind of thinking, are they going to recast me? I mean, what's, like, you know, because you're trying to get into the role. And it wasn't something me and Saul discussed, but for me, when I read the first script, I was like, dude is fully in love with her from the beginning. Like, it's nothing that, if anything, it just grows more intense by the time they kiss. But it's not like Rob only begins to fall in love with Cassie a couple episodes in. I mean, he's just there from the beginning. And it was very easy for me to play that with Sarah, because she's so wonderful and she's so easy to work with. And she had such, like, and sometimes you only discover these things when you watch the show. But when I saw Sarah in it, I was like, there's just such charm and there's such grace and there's such, like, strength in that performance that is just, like, just completely even took me off guard when I watched it. And yeah, I don't know if I answered your question though.
No. There's actually a moment, I want to say, I don't think it's at the Katie Devlin crime scene. It may be in an interrogation room. I can't remember the exact scene, but there's a moment where someone says something. It's someone that both of you are talking to, and you two don't say anything, and you just look at each other. Like, it cuts to her and it cuts to you looking at each other from across the room, and it's not just a professional, like, oh, did you hear that? It's more, I was like, that's the first time I was like, oh, something's happening here.
Yeah, love it. Okay. Love it.
And I sort of wanted to know, like, after, you know, you're a giant son of a bitch to her, and she goes off and works on the other case.
Sure, yeah.
I was very curious if you think that your case that you deal with Katie would, how do you think that would go if the two of you were still working together? Would it have been solved a lot quicker? Do you think that...
Dude, literally, Joe, I've never been asked that question. That's crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I don't know. I mean, well, you see, that's the problem, is because she's, like, Rob is a fanatic and an obsessive. And, like, you know, the things we talked about earlier, he's the kind of guy, you know, he's willing to sort of sacrifice everything, any relationship, his own life, his sanity, in the pursuit of the things that he believes are important. And that's probably to his, well, it's an interesting idea. Like, does that enhance his abilities in his professional role, or is it
I don't know, because I was wondering, like,
because Cassie's sorry.
No, that's okay. She always, I mean, she says from the very beginning you can't do it. So I don't know if, like, he would feel like he's more in check with her there. Does, like, him working it by himself, is he looking too much inward and looking, like, is Rob looking at Adam, looking at Rob doing the case? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like,
dude, that's fascinating, and you're on the money. I think that's the problem, is that Rob has too sharp an inner intellect. Like, his ability to I don't like the term navel gaze, but it's in that kind of vein, is so strong that you're right. He needs to be kept in check, and Cassie is the one who does that. And both of them are such unique characters that they exist brilliantly together, but separate not as well. But Cassie is definitely she's like this grounding presence that
Yeah.
I think would have kept, if Rob wasn't so sort of hell bent on his own destruction, which I think is there. I think there's a kamikaze quality to him that again I only sort of realized as we were filming, because you're getting the new scripts and I'm like, whoa, shit, that's crazy. And I think with Cassie, had Cassie been there, he wouldn't have gone so far off the rails, because Rob goes really deep into a psychological self-implosion. It was so sad. When I'm doing the thing, Joey, it's like I never think of these things objectively. I just try and, I trained at a method school, and I'm not a hardcore method guy, but on fundamental levels, the primary Stanislavskian principle is that it's personalized. So there is no character. It's just you.
It's you, yeah.
And so I never think of those things objectively when I'm reading them, really. There were a couple of moments that hit me on a personal level with the stuff with Cassie that we discussed. But you're you're just playing the thing. And then it's only really afterwards that you can kind of see it in a different way. And when I saw the show, I was just like, fuck, man, he's just so sad. Rob is so sad. And it broke my heart to play it. It broke my heart to see it, because he does these terrible things. But oftentimes when terrible things are done, if you kind of break it down back to the individual and maybe where those things come from, and when you think of boy goes into woods, his friends disappear, and he is found having had some terribly traumatizing incidents that he doesn't even remember, and as a result he's sent out of the country because his parents or the family are being, for want of a better word, terrorized in their community by the locals and by the press. And he's sent off to some boarding school by himself, where he sort of begins to develop this new identity. That's crazy stuff to deal with. And it does help you humanize him. But I just thought, and Cassie has so many issues herself, but a sort of maternal or paternal feeling I had when I watched it was I just wanted someone to take care of him.
Yeah.
But again, how do you take care of a person who turns to you and says, you were crying and I got hard and it meant nothing to me?
Yeah, there's
or Joey, sorry to cut you in, but there's another line where Rob is like, oh yeah, when I say, if it makes you feel any better, you can tell yourself Lexi did it.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Which is that's cruelty on another, level. But again, it's all manipulated. I mean, it's you see when she leaves, when she hits me and she leaves. I mean, I hoped it was clear that Rob didn't mean those things. It's a tactic.
Yeah.
Because he needs to do the case, or he can't let her in, or however you might otherwise interpret it. But
yeah, because your mom says later, that's another cause she says that's where it's just
they were shitty kids. They were shit kids.
They were shitty kids. They treated you like crap, and then she was like, why do you do this? Why do you freeze people out? And you push the chair away, and it's just erupts out that how abandoned he felt. And it's you can see how the things that your character says are very, very cruel, but it's so sad. It's rooted in this pitch black, dark sadness. She says, you've done to her what you've done to everyone. You freeze them out. You go cold. I don't know how that happened. I had this sweet, loving little boy. Now you're this cold, cold man.
I remember.
Or she says to you, you sound like an Irishman.
Because when she says she doesn't know how it happens, and I jump up and I'm like, you put me in a boarding school in a different country, and my natural accent comes out. And then afterwards, I retreat back into the English accent after she says, you sound like an Irishman. God, it's wonderful. You're making me remember these scenes. And the weird thing is, I don't just remember, you remember playing them. Like I remember sitting in that kitchen in my bare foot and I was smoking and like, and I remember the kind of weird shitty color of the wallpaper and, and the mood in the room. But we had such wonderful actors on the show and such cool directors that it's a hard thing to express, but like, I find with acting, it's like, it's what I love doing. And so performance is like an expression of my joy than anything else. So even if I'm playing a deeply sad and broken and disturbed individual as Rob is, even in a scene like that, there's a certain euphoria to the expression of it, and we just kept such a, maybe John, one of our directors, or Sarah or Saul Dibb, maybe someone else would say otherwise, but for me, the feeling on set was so loose. It was so playful. It was like, it just felt really creative in a way where like everyone was getting the chance to weigh in and do their job. And like, because sets are weird and there's a weird tension because there's a huge amount of pressure and there's a lot of things have to go pretty well for the thing to even work. It's like, when I think of a film like The Godfather or like, which is just a masterpiece, like for that to be that good, the amount of random shit that just has to go really well, that's really hard to control, it's like, to make anything at all is pretty good going, but for it to be good and then for it to be excellent and so on and so forth is extraordinary, because of what it takes and because of what's involved. But those scripts fundamentally, and having someone like Sarah Green opposite you, it's really all lined up in your favor. It's almost like it takes an effort then to do it, to get it wrong almost, because it's so set up.
It's so interesting that you say about how free it is when you would think a show that is about two detectives who are trying to work a case, where some people may assume that the show's just like sort of like a police show, that it's so interesting that it's so free, maybe because it has such a huge emotional component to it.
I think that's probably right.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure if, I love that the show doesn't give you really an answer about what happened in 85 at the end. I love that. And when I spoke to Sarah, she had said that she wasn't sure if like a second season would move on from these characters or not. Do you think that Rob would continue to try to find out what happened at Knocknary, or would he just have to walk away?
It's such a good question, because that scene at the end, it's me and Tom Von Lawler, and he wishes me like a rising road, Adam, and I walk off, and I'm just so sad, and it's so awful, and like my life is ruined, and I've completely destroyed. Well, I've ruined the best thing in my life, which was Cassie, and I'm no longer allowed to do the only thing I could do, which was be a detective. And it's a disaster. And, you kind of look at this guy and it's like John Hayes, our final director, who was wonderful. And he had this great direction for me, which was very simple. It was just ghost. So sometimes in those scenes in the later episodes, when Rob is really falling apart, he'd be like, okay, let's go again, but let's just ghost, just go ghost, just as a thing. And the ghost idea was that like Rob is just barely conscious that he's even with the person. He's barely existing. And it was just a kind of a creative thing that we tried, and it had a nice flavor to it. And there was this quality about Rob as he goes off of like, like, what's this guy gonna do? And my suspicion, and again, that's the second question that's been asked me for the first time from you, Joey, which is, yeah, exactly. Well, not too shabby.
No.
Someone hasn't been getting rusty during Corona.
No. I have nothing else to do.
But I suspect in the moment that I'm thinking about this, I think Rob would be the kind of guy who would finally have gotten the message, and he would try and go off and live some form of life, perhaps out in the country for a while, but he would inevitably be sucked back into it. I think it's such an obsession, and it's like, I remember one of my drama school teachers talking about Jason Bourne, and he was like, Jason Bourne is just the most incredible character because he has such an incredible goal. Like, he has to find out what happened to him because he doesn't remember. Yeah. And such a random example, but like,
that's great.
There's a thing in Rob of that idea that although he has been undone, and although everyone knows that he is Adam, and although all the relationships are kaput, I think he's just, it's like he can't exist without it or something. It's like it fuels his very existence. Like, Rob wouldn't be able to do anything without it, I think. And that's kind of terrifying because, his whole identity, this is so weird because I'm just thinking of it now. His whole identity is wrapped around discovering what actually happened to him, like what actually is his identity in a way. And so if he actually were to find out, would that even give him peace? Or would he just be, well, now I have no purpose, which is crazy when you think about it.
And what would happen if he finds the answers and he doesn't like them, or if he finds the answers and he, like, it's unsatisfactory? Because, I mean, he's been living with this insane secret for, like, 20 years. So, like, what if he finds out, like, the truth and it's, like, maybe he doesn't believe the truth, or maybe he feels like something else is hiding somewhere else, like...
And this, but that touches into, to go back to a point you made earlier about what is the thing that made the show maybe different or more interesting perhaps than oh, this is a cop thing. These are just they're just gonna do cop things. And you talked about the emotional connection of the characters and the emotional experiences they go through. And it also just raises interesting ideas about, like, memory and stuff. And, like, Rob is obsessed, and it's not the greatest thing to be obsessed about. It usually doesn't lead you very far in life if you're obsessed about the past. And, Rob is stuck in this obsession, but then also, as he discovers with his mother, it's unreliable. Like, your memory is not a reliable witness a lot of the time. Yeah. And he's been holding on to this concept of, like, his good friends who disappeared, and in a way he almost needs to seek truth as justice. Mm-hmm. And then his mom is like, they bullied you, dude.
Yeah.
They weren't nice people. And he's like, no, you've got it wrong. And she's like, no, this is the thing. And Rob kind of closes down at that moment and it's really crazy. And, like, you could write, there's so many movies you can make about this idea, but, like, he has convinced himself of something. He's convinced himself that something is true, and then he discovers that it's possibly untrue. But his entire life has revolved around the truth of that idea. And then he just has to be like, oh, shit, I guess I was wrong. Like, that's crazy. It's
a tailspin over that. Yeah. Yeah. Like, even moments of you, like, you venture out into the woods by yourself. Like, there's, like, one sequence, I think it's in, like, episode 4, where you're just, like, running around these crazy, terrifying woods with these gigantic trees, and it's sort of like, I mean, maybe that's what I'll end up with Rob. Maybe he'll just, like, run around the trees of Nocturne for the rest of his life. I mean,
as a very quick random anecdote, those woods are the same, because Game of Thrones shot in Belfast for like 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Those woods are where they shot, like, loads of Game of Thrones stuff. Mm-hmm. So they do walking tours through the woods, and people, these wonderful people who are massively obsessed with Lord of the Rings, and they're wearing the costumes.
Oh yeah.
And there was one day we were filming a scene, and we were doing it, and then I hear cut, and I was like, why are we cutting? And I look over my shoulder, and there's like 7 people, and, like, one of whom is dressed up as Hodor, and they're just walking. They're walking through the back of the shot, and we're like, yeah, I think we need to do this one again. I don't.
So somewhere there's, like, a version of Dublin Murders where there's just, like Game of Thrones characters walking in the back.
Jon Snow just running
Yeah.
through the background.
Just
Like,
running around with a sword or something.
yeah,
Oh, God. Funny.
yeah.
Well, I think that's really all the questions I have. So I guess
Oh, cool, man.
thank you a lot for talking to me. I sort of want to just start the show over again because I don't know if I could take it. I would have to like take a couple of days before I do it. Because I really watched the whole thing in like 36 hours and I was exhausted by the end of it.
That's so cool, and I love doing that. And I did that with like, I do this thing where I wait until it's in Germany, so until it gets released, say on like iTunes. So like I did this with Game of Thrones, and I would have to wait until it had fully finished on HBO until it comes onto iTunes. But of course, it's the biggest shit in the universe, and there's so I just tried to avoid the internet for like most of that season, which is difficult to do. And then it was about, I think it was like the second last episode, and one of my mates texted me. He said, I know you're trying to avoid the Game of Thrones thing. There's no way you're going to avoid what just happened in this episode, so just start watching it. I can't remember what the moment was, but anyway, I did watch it. But like a Succession, I just watched in 2 days, and like
that's good.
Succession is
that's
Kieran Culkin is like And I did a show called Ripper Street with Matthew McFadden, who plays Tom, and he's just like, I love that show. But no, it's fun, man, because it's so cool when people get into the thing, because like, you know, we film it for 7 months in Belfast.
Mm-hmm.
You have numerous emotional breakdowns as a result of filming this role for 7 months in Belfast.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it goes out into the world, and you know, it's just so nice when people connect to these things, you know, and you've almost made me kind of want to have a look at it again, because
do it.
There's and like the scene where like I call her from her room and goes to voicemail, and I just leave her a voicemail and just fucking burst into tears. Or, you know, the flashback scene in the last episode when you see when me and Cassie first met.
Oh God, it's so good. It's not that connection is so immediate, and it feels so similar to how the two of you like operate like in the crime scene together. Like that connection between the two of, like, I actually thought, I was like, how happy must those two characters be to actually find that connection really with somebody that instantaneously.
Dude, yeah, totally. I'd never thought of that. Yeah, like, because imagine you were wandering through the world, and unfortunately, I'm sure lots of people are. We all have our moments, but you're wandering through the world and you think, oh, there's no one like me or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find someone, and it's like, and as we say in the show, it's like, hello, freak. Hello, freak. You know, this little weird back and forth we have.
Yeah. It's like, you show me your scars, I'll show you mine. It's like sometimes quite literally, but it's like,
yeah. And I'd love to think of more other things to tell you, but you know, it's so fun that you liked it, and it's so cool to talk to someone about it, Joey, because it's been, you know, months, and I've been in Berlin playing a lot of music and learning a lot of German and doing a few random prison style workouts in my little apartment. And sort of, so to see, and you can easily kind of almost disconnect a bit from, oh yeah, this thing that I do, well, you know, a journalist, or fuck yeah, I'm an actor, you know. And so to talk about the show, because I loved it so much, and it's like, I remember very vividly when I was, sorry, this is going on now, but I'll be quick. I remember, you know, when I started acting in Dublin, and I did like 4 years of amateur theatre, and then I went to drama school in London. And I remember back then, like I might have gotten a line in a film or something, that a film that was no one ever saw, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But I was just like, fuck, man, I got a line in a movie. Or you get a good part in a play, or you get a small part. And so to think, like, when I got the scripts for this, I was just like, this is so cool that I get to do this. Mm-hmm. You know, it's so cool. Like, this is an incredible role. Amazing people. I mean, Element Pictures from Dublin are with us as well. You know, they've made all of Yorgos Lanthimos' films and Lenny Abramson's work. And you know, directors like Saul and John and Rebecca Gatward and like all of these things, and you're just like, and I don't mean this in a kind of a lame, cheesy way, but I was just like, how lucky am I that I get to do this? And
Yeah.
and then when you see it and you're like, I like this. And I did, you know, when I saw the show, I was like, oh, this is cool, man. All the moments that I hoped we communicated have been. And then also the directors do these crazy things with the edits that you never even would have imagined.
Oh yeah.
That just tie pieces together and drop other material. Like when the trailer first came out, I was just like, oh, dude, this is rock and roll.
Yeah.
Which, you know, just the music and the terror and the woods are so creepy and Sarah's so great. And yeah, I was so into it, and it's so cool to just talk about it now, you know.
Yeah, I went back and watched the trailer after I watched the show, and I'd seen it before, but I had forgotten everything about the trailer. And there's like this like super creepy ass music in it, like so like this ethereal like girl kind of singing.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is so messed up. Like,
yeah, yeah, man, totally. I had the same feeling, and I'm like in the show.
Yeah.
I watched the trailer and I was like, I'm scared. I don't want to. This freaks me out, dude. You know.